Yeah, you're accurate on their schedule. You know, obviously 3 BCS schools, and then Miami, who is projected to have a good football team in our conference, and they've only played one game at home, so I'm sure they'll be anxious to get back home. So statistically, and it doesn't match up to the kind of football team I believe they are when you turn on the film. And I think they're well coached. I think they're sound in all phases of the game, and so it's a game where you can't afford to make errors, and you're going to have to play well. We throw the previous games out the window. The MAC conference, or the conference, every week you're going to have to play really well in order to get it done, and I believe that's true in this one also. Statistics can be so misleading, and once you start to get into the conference and you just look at the conference statistics from the conference games only, after you're halfway through it, you maybe start to get somewhat of a picture as to what maybe is happening. Right now, you can identify some things from those statistics, and I do look at those pretty hard, and there are areas you can point to your own team as far as what you need to do to get better and have a better chance every week to line up and play your best football. So just looking at them on film, I think they're a very solid football team, very sound football team, well coached, and their quarterback can throw the ball. He will really try to pinpoint passes. He's a guy that's not afraid to let the ball go, and he's big, strong. So you're just going to have to try to get some pressure on him and hopefully make him throw a few up.
Charlie Molnar was the coach of, or was one of the offensive coaches at Central Michigan. You played him in the championship game, 05, and they're spread the field, throw the ball. Are you surprised to see them try to incorporate more of a ground game, more of a power run game this year with UMass?
Not necessarily. That's something we did when we first started this program off. I think it's pretty clear to a lot of coaches that if you are able to get a ground game going, it's probably your best shot of having a team that has a chance to have success and control the ball and eat the clock up and get done a lot of things that you want to get done. And so that's no surprise that that they're as much of a running football team as they are a throwing football team, maybe more so. But could that change as time goes on? Certainly could, but right now it's what they are, and they're doing it well.
What have you seen from Michael Cox on film? He seems like kind of the heart and soul of their offense, if you will.
I've watched certainly their games. I think he's talented. I think he's a physical player, able to make plays, and so you're faced with that. But we've been faced with individual talent throughout the course of our first 3 games, and really it comes down to how you match up across the board, and obviously a player here or a player there at the quarterback spot, for instance, could make a huge difference. But when you really look at the talent level, we identify players that do have exceptional ability, and you try to plan, have them in the plan to where you try to prevent them from making huge plays. And other than that, you just got to defense everybody, and you got to try to attack them from an offensive standpoint. So, I think he's a really good player.
Statistically, last week, 471 yards of total offense against Miami, their best game yet. Do you think they're kind of on the uptick a little bit, kind of moving into that MAC schedule?
Oh, I would think so. I think that the tough start that they had, a new staff, getting settled in, players adjusting on the run as you go through the early part of your schedule. It seems to me like they're operating at a pretty good level right now, and that they are improving. I think it is clear that they're an improving football team. And obviously, they've got to be upbeat about getting the MAC conference started and wanting to, make an impression in it. And so I think they'll play very, very hard, and they have the capability of playing well. And those two things combined can cause you problems.
It's a focus for you guys every year, turnovers, creating turnovers, not having any, and right now you guys are third in the country in turnover ratio. Is there anything specific you can point to at this point in the year that's allowed that to happen?
Yeah, we're, what have we got, 7, is it fumble recoveries, pass interceptions? I know we got a total of 12,
12,
right?
yeah, you're plus 10 on the year.
Plus 10 on the year. That's huge. There is a MAC school ahead of us, and so we've got a ways to go. But the turnover ratio, there's two things that I think have been really critical. When you can look at all the statistics you want, but if you really look at the turnover margin, and you're a plus 2.50 or plus 2.75 after 5 games, then you've got a huge advantage. And if you can keep that up, and that's the goal, is to try to keep that up. And we've got some really instinctive players. You look at the guys that are making those plays and getting the turnovers are guys that really have been doing that for some time. You see it in practice, you see it on the game film. As far as taking care of the ball, I don't know that you could emphasize takeaways and taking care of the ball any more than we do. I mean, it's always in our conversation. It's always in our group work and individual work in practice. We're always talking about it in teamwork to our players, and so it's something that we know as coaches, and I think our players know now how important that is to winning football games. The other statistic is scoring offense and scoring defense. It's pretty clear to me if you score a lot of points, and right now we're I think number 1 in the MAC in scoring points. We're number 1 in the MAC in defense in terms of points allowed. That's a really good statistic. That needs to carry on over into MAC play. Turnovers allows you to have a chance to be good in those areas.
Coach, Ryan Clark has been pretty big this season, switched from defense to offense, playing with an injury. What has he brought to this offense, and how big of an asset is he on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, he's got good speed and quickness, and he's able to utilize that as a receiver, and he's able to utilize that as a punt return guy. He's able to utilize that as a punt coverage guy, which we have him do. He can be on the kickoff coverage, and so and we did have him on the kickoff return. So we were trying to utilize that quickness and speed in every aspect of the game, but we took him off the kickoff return because he was getting a lot of snaps as a receiver, and we're banged up at the receiver spot. And Tyler Futrell, I think, is a question mark going into this next game. And so with the loss of Murillo and how that all worked, and Dante not fully healthy in the last couple games that he's played, and so it's it's a position that we're starting to get a little bit concerned about. So and not having him return kickoffs, it gives him a little bit of a break.
And so he's even playing with an injury too, right? With that torn ligament in the thumb, Ryan Clark, is that correct?
No, that's Dante. That's got the torn ligament. No, Ryan Clark has played in some games with an ankle sprain, to where he hasn't gotten a full week of practicing, but has been able to play in the games, but that seems to be healed now.
There's one area where maybe the Minutemen are a little bit dangerous. It'd be the return game, 24 yards per kick return. Jordan, I believe Broadnax is his name. Seems like a pretty dangerous guy. Can you maybe speak on that and what you're
Yeah, I think they do a good job with their 11 guys on that unit. You just don't have a guy catch the ball and all of a sudden get an average of 24 yards of return by himself, and so it's clear that they've got a good scheme, and I think their players operate that scheme very well. And that's one thing, if you can find yourself with the kind of people that can operate well in that kickoff return game, that carries on over into the punt return game, and that means you've got some skilled athletes, and they're still working at finding the right combination with some of those skilled athletes, but their kickoff return unit is certainly something that you have to be aware of. We think we've covered fairly well. It's almost impossible to get to the bottom of kickoff coverage statistics. I've worked on it, and there's about half a dozen ways you can measure it, and none of them make me happy in terms of getting to the bottom of it, but I think we've got a pretty good kickoff coverage unit. And so I think that'll be a good matchup. If you look at this last game, our starting field position was at the 50-yard line. Theirs was at something like the 25. And so special teams are a huge part of that.
Did you do any more analysis or breakdown into Matt Weller's problems on kicking field goals over the weekend?
No, you know, I think he's, what, 9 of 15, and there's been a block or so. There's been pressure at times, so we need to clear that up. That'll help, obviously. We just need to kick them like they're extra points. You know, we're 100% on extra points, and we've kicked a lot of them, and so we just need to, number one, kick more extra points. That would be great. And then I think, you know, he's such a good kicker. I think he presses to be perfect all the time, and we're not perfect across the board on that unit, and so we're unperfect, and so we need to get that, get some of those issues resolved, and some of it starts up front and with the wings in terms of protection. And you know, it's no secret that we've got a new snapper, we've got a new holder. All those things enter into it a little bit.
Coach, you're 4-0, you're having a great season. How do you draw on your experience from Nebraska? You started out well in Nebraska before. How do you learn from those experiences in terms of what's going on with the OU program right now?
Well, you know, how we approach games one at a time at Nebraska was what we're doing here, and that's clearly to me the best way to do it. The trouble with this business is winning consistently. You know, you can win through a period of time in the year, and then all of a sudden it's not there. You can have one really good year, and then all of a sudden it's not there. You can put together maybe a couple years, and then all of a sudden there's a drop-off. A big part of it is winning consistently. And so in order to do that, you got to have good athletes, you got to have depth, and our depth is coming into play right now, because you know, we've lost some really top line players, a lot of them on the defensive end of it. And you know, to be able to overcome that, you have to have depth within your program. I think we've built the depth within our program to give us a chance. Obviously, at some point in time, it's got to level off, and that's got to stop in terms of injuries. But that's a key. And then, you know, not focusing down the road. You do have goals for the year. They know what those goals are, but you've got to be ready to break it down to where it's one game at a time, and the goals that you need to accomplish to win that game at hand. And then not to pat yourself on the back. You know, if you win and win and win, there'll be enough people patting you on the back. But you can't afford to do that yourself. You've got to understand that the only way that we can win, and win with any kind of consistency, is by being on top of every single game, or else, you know, at Nebraska, we lined up at times, and we were favorites in our non-conference schedule in most of the games by a bunch. And so, you know, we don't have that luxury to be favored like that as we get into the MAC conference. You know, we maybe had one game where we were favored heavily in our non-conference play, but that was it. That's strange to us. Right. You know, and so we just need to keep our focus and just keep going the direction we're going, and practice well, know who you're playing, understand what you got to do to win the game, then go out and execute it.